program for you. We are going to be talking about my favorite color is Moda. We're going to be covering some simple blocks, and you know what? We had so much fun sewing last time that we thought we would sew again tonight, and I'll share some tips and tricks, and we're going to try some new tools. Ooh. We are also going to take a look at a little bit of what you're up to, see a special visitor that we had in the store this week, and look at some of the new fabrics that have been coming into the store. Tammy's here with me tonight. She's at the keyboard to answer all of your questions. If you have something you'd like to ask me, go ahead and type it in the comments and she will let me know and we'll be able to answer live tonight. So let's get started. We're going to take a peek at these blocks. So we have, this is a stylized pictures of blocks 12, 13, and 14. And let's take a peek at them laid out. So really simple. We have some half square triangles. We have giant quarter square triangles. And then we have some 9 patches. So for those of you who haven't tuned in from the beginning, no problem at all. What I want to share with you is that, let's make the graphic go away here. What we're going to share with you is that we started with a palette and this pattern book. So this pattern book is My Favorite Color is Moda. It's a sampler and it's still available for purchase here in the store. But even if you're not making this quilt, we're going to be talking about some stuff that is really helpful along the way for all of your quilt making. The palette that we used is a 10 fabric palette and we used all solids. We have a kit completely available here in store, and then we have 6 colorways. We have customers who are participating in all of the different colorways here. I'm making the Primrose Garden colorway, which is the cover quilt, so that it was easier to follow along. Because it is solids, one of the things that I like to do when I'm working on a project like this is I number my fabrics. So with a Sharpie, you can see here. And so midway through the year, I still know exactly what fabrics I have and what order to work on, and I'm cutting off what I need as I need them. In case if you forgot, there is no marking in the selvage of a solid. The other thing that is really important to note is that if you're working with a screen print, the screen print really only shows you the style. It never shows you the color. So this could also be something that you want to type in to a selvage if you wanted to type in a color. Okay, but in this case, our colors are simply the color order that we're going to be using, not any reference numbers. For block 12, we are going to be making some giant half square triangles, and let me just flip to the page here. Here we go. We are going to make, we're not going to make all 3 of them here, but we are going to be making 3 9-inch finished blocks here. And you can see that here it is. It's 4 patch of different half square triangles. I went ahead and I pressed my fabrics so that we just need to subcut them. They're a little raggy on the edges because we have been using them all year long. And I am going to power cut here, okay? So I need a total of 3 5.5-inch squares of fabrics 8 and 9, and then 6 of this fabric 10. Put that one over there. So I brought out this other tool. We've been using our standard rotary cutting tools and rulers. I'm bringing out this Shape Cut Plus today. You could also just use a regular shape cut. I believe there is a few other types of slot cut rulers just like this. This one here is made right here in Wisconsin and is a great tool to use. I'm just going to move the ironing board out of the way a second so that we can use this. And I am not going to power cut all 3 of them at one time because that one fabric is a little bit different shape. But what we're going to do is I'm going to line up this, push it up a little bit. Can you see it better now? Yep. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Tammy, for making sure that everybody can see everything. So this is not completely fabric efficient, but it helps us do the job quickly and easily. We are going to be cutting 5.5-inch strips, so I can line up on the 0 and the half here. You can see I can just eke out our 5.5 from our fabric number 10. So what I do if I'm using this, yes?
Move it this way some. There's a glare from the light.
Sure.
I can't see the measurements.
Sure.
This way.
Okay, let me also put this underneath here, maybe so you can see that a little better. Okay, so I know we have lighting here that's overhead lighting that's not optimum for a studio. So I'm going to make the 0, that's our straight cut. And then I'm going to cut on the 5.5. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to go to the half. Let's try again. There we go. Okay. And let's see here how I did. So I was a little ambitious and didn't use the proper strength here. Oh my goodness. So a lot of you commented that you really appreciated the fact that I had some real life situations last week. And so we're going to have a few more of them tonight. Okay, so this is fabrics 9 and 10. And then I'm going to cut a strip for my fabric 8. I'm going to pull that one over here. And as you can see, I like to fold my fabrics in half and in half. Okay. I'm going to line up this line on the bottom, and I'm going to place this underneath again so we can see the sizes a little bit. Okay. Lined it up on the bottom. Oh, slid again. There we go. I'm also cutting a little bit farther away from my body than I normally would, just so you could see it underneath this camera here. Always for the best cuts, cut perpendicular to your body and as close to your torso as comfortable and possible. Then what we're going to do here, so I need 3 of this color, I need 3 of this color. Do you see here how I'm lining this up? And then, since I need 6 of this one, what I'm going to do is I am going to line up a double layer, okay? See how sneaky I am here? So that way, when I make the cuts for 3 of them, I'm actually going to yield 6. So let's see if I can be fancy. Now here we're going to play with a little bit of math. Math, I know you guys hate it when we play math, but it's going to be fun, I promise. I don't know, Tammy here doesn't believe me that math is going to be fun tonight. All right, so we're lined up on the edge, we're lined up on the bottom. We're going to make our 0 cut. 5.5. 5.5 and 5.5 is 11. And 5.5 plus 11 is 16.5. Ho, ho, ho. All right. So that was super easy, right? Super easy. I know you guys are excited. And you're saying, Julie, you got to change your blade. Say, okay, I'll change my blade before the next episode. Okay, so now I was getting to the end of my fabric, which is why I'm not concerned that my number 10 is done with. I'm going to put him over to the side just so that in case if I need the number 10 again, that I know what color it is. All right, so now we're going to pair up, and don't worry, we're not going to make all of them. We need to pair up the light and the dark and the medium and the dark. Now, when I make half square triangles, so 2 units out of 1 square, I typically use my quick quarter ruler, position it from side to side, draw my lines, stitch on my lines. Last week, I went rogue. And I know a few of you were like, Julie, what are you doing? And Lisa's like, what are you teaching everybody? Like, you know, I don't normally do that. And so I talked about this product called diagonal seam tape. And I thought, you know what? This would be a great opportunity to talk about that. So the diagonal seam tape is a cheater way. So if you don't want to draw, but you want to follow lines, and so it is $7.50. And it's a single-use product. It's like washi tape. It might even be printed washi tape. I'm not sure. We're going to pull it off. And what we're going to do is position it. Use that red line from point to point. Okay, position that there and there. Ha, I'm like an expert. Okay, now since we do want to pin it, let me grab some pins. Uh-oh. I think I have a different pin cushion. That's all right. So we can do this a variety of ways. Now, I usually pin perpendicular to where I'm sewing, but I'm not pinning through the tape because that would be bad. So I'm just going to pin here and here just to hold everything together. Okay? We're going to do the same thing here so we can chain piece this together. So has anyone used this diagonal seam tape that is watching tonight?
Barbara already said that she loves that tape.
Barbara loves this tape. Thanks so much for commenting, Barbara. Okay. And thank you so much for tuning in tonight as well. When I stitch through this, we are just going to use our regular stitching. Now keep in mind, whenever you sew through paper or adhesive like this, you may dull your needle a little bit easier than if you were simply sewing through fabric. So you may need to change your needle more frequently, but you know what? That is an inexpensive way to a better stitch. So we are going to take our 2 pieces over here to the sewing machine and we'll stitch. So here we are. And on the sewing machine, I have put on a 1/4 inch foot. Tonight I am using a light gray thread and bobbin. And my needle of choice is the Microtech 7010. I am going to, I forgot to move the chair here, but I'm sewing standing up so that you can see this a little better. You can sew standing up if you prefer, or the traditional method of course, sewing sitting down. And the one thing that I want to point out to you, I don't know if you can see this, but you know, this is tape. So it could potentially stick to your machine. So we're going to go ahead and trim this off so that we don't stick while we're stitching. Right? That'd be bad. So let me go ahead, and I'm using a scissors that I would use on my interfacing or fusible web adhesive or other fabric type product or a non-fabric type product in my sewing room. All right, so I'm going to put my needle down and stitch. And I'm just stitching on the line here. I only trimmed off that one side of tape, so hopefully it will turn out all right. And I'm just stitching on my line. And now my other side. So I'm just chaining them together. And it's really nice because this is just, the line fits right through the gap. Uh-oh. What is happening? All right. See? Real life. Probably wasn't the greatest idea that I left the tape on the other side. Don't do that. See, we learn from each other. So Barbara, you're going to have to let me know if you trim or if I'm just having a weird problem. I didn't change the stitch length. It might not be a bad idea to go a little bit tighter. Let's see when we take the tape off. How does that sound? We're just learning through experimentation here. So when I'm sewing on triangle paper, I would typically reduce my stitch length just a little bit. I'm curious how this perforates, so we're going to watch it live together as this comes undone.
Jerry and Barbara also both say that they put it on the bed of their machine as a great way to have a straight line to keep the fabric straight.
Nice. So the other thing is that you can just put it on your machine for permanence, that you're not actually sewing through it, is another way that you can use this. Okay, so what we're going to do is, I did break a thread here. We will go to our, we're going to go and trim up one of them. And our other view, we will come over to our cutting board here. So I stitched on here, just stitched up really nice. I'm going to cut it apart. I'm just going to cut right on the red line. And let's see how this comes off. So I'm just removing it from the fabric here with my fingernail. And I'm tearing off. It tears off really easily here. So it is like a paperback tape. It is thinner than a masking tape. Comes off really, really easy, which is nice. And then I'm going to grab it from sort of the middle here rather than starting from the edge. That's one of the tricks that I do when I'm removing paper from foundation piecing, is that I don't like to always start at the beginning of a seam here, so that I have less stress at the beginning and end of a seam. And then I just have a little bit left to take out from the center. So that came off really nice. I would say there really is no particular need to change that stitch length based on this experience. Let's try the second side. And then we can read her instructions and see if she recommends to do that. How does that sound? Tammy's laughing at me.
Read the instructions.
Read the instructions. You know, we were talking before the presentation here, and I was telling Tammy that we weren't going to do something during the presentation, and she said, Julie, she said, come on. She's like, I know you. She's like, I'm going to be ready for if you do it. So, instructions. Who needs instructions? How many of you don't follow all the instructions? So I'd say the thing here is that there's a little bit of tack here, so that is a little bit challenging, but not too crazy. Okay, that was good. So that came off really easily. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press them open and show you how to trim them down so that we can assemble them as a unit. So here, so while we do this, Tammy's going to see if she can rethread the machine for us. You never know what's going to happen. And it's always a party. Hoot, hoot. Okay, so you can either press to the dark side. So the traditional way of pressing would be to press it like a fortune cookie, all closed up. And then we will open it up. I like to then press, if I'm pressing to one side, from the center. Use my iron to move it over. Set that center. Da-da-da. And if I'm going to be pressing it open, I would take my thumbnail and work from the center out. Careful not to stretch that bias. And so I thumb press it before I set the iron on it. Either ways would be completely acceptable. When I'm working with solids like this or most any fabric, I do go ahead and pre-starch my fabric so that it is a little bit crisp. Now, I don't know if you can see it here, but people say, Julie, why do you press open? And I say because I like it flatter, and so, or more flat. This here is crazy flat, and you can't see an a raised edge at all. This one has a little bit of a raised edge because, of course, you have 3 layers here, okay, and that one's completely flat. Both are completely acceptable in the quilting world. That is just an option here. Okay, so we do need to trim these down. When you're working with this, you are going to trim these to 5 inches. So I'm going to take, one of the methods that I can do is I can take my Big Daddy or Big Mama ruler, which are the rulers here that we manufacture for the shop and distribute to others. I'm going to use this 45-degree angle here, and you can see that I have a little bit hanging off the edge, and then this is the 5-inch mark right here, and there is a little bit there, so we are going to cut. And then we're going to rotate, 45-degree mark here, line that edge up, and feel free to ask questions along the way if you have any. 45-degree line. There we go, just like that. Another way that you could do that is you could use a different slot ruler. I believe I have my perfect half and quarter square triangle ruler here. Let me just grab it out of my little bin here. Going to line it up and line up my 45. And in this case, because this particular one that I grabbed is at probably not a good one to show you, because I'm going to be using it for the 4.5 and the 5.5 here to get that 4-inch, or to get the 5-inch. So I don't want to confuse you. I'll put this one away. I'll put that one away, but you can see here how that's 5 inches. And then we'll come to this side, line up here on that 45-degree line. Shave off the edge. Now, if you are saying, Julie, I don't understand, why do we have to square these blocks up? I will tell you that the math for this is a little oversized. So to have a perfect size that you don't have to trim up, you would actually be cutting your squares 4 and 7, you'd be cutting them 5 3/8 instead of 5.5. But then you have no room for error. And so one of the things that has become very popular in the past 10 years of quilt making has been to size these up to the nearest 1/2 inch and then trim down just a little bit so that you have perfect points every single time. All right, so Tammy, were we able to thread the machine?
I think so.
Okay, yay, we threaded the machine. We're going to go back over and sew the rest of that so we can make our block.
I told them we'd see.
We would see. All right, let's try. Let's try again. So what we're going to do, so far so good. Good job, Tammy. It's excellent having a production assistant here during our presentation. All right. Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to then repeat what we just did, and we aren't going to talk through as slowly what we did. So first cut apart, right? Cut apart. Cut on the red line here, remove our tape, press, square up, right? Those are our steps. So while I'm doing this, let me know if you have any questions. Does anybody have any questions along the way yet? No questions yet. So has anybody been to the state fair? We have several customers that have entered in quilts and several that have won wonderful ribbons. I'll be showing you a little bit later during our show and tell one of the first place winners. And I hope all of you have power again. I know that with the storms over this past week, so many of you have been without power. And it's actually just amazing how we actually have power as often as we do without, we take it for granted. So I'm very thankful that for once the shop didn't lose power. I mean, oh my goodness. There's been times here that like no one else in the city is out and we're sitting here without power, but we were very, very fortunate. Just had a few branches down. I will not complain at all. All right, so I need to sharpen my thumbnails. So Barbara and Jerry, do you, oh no, I was going to say, do you ever use the tape on your fabric, or do you only use it on the bed of your machine? We'll see if either of them are watching and are able to answer. So definitely perfect, definitely perfect. I would say for the next round that we're going to be doing with the quarter square triangle, we are going to do a version where we tape it on our machine bed so that we can see how that works. We'll just try all of the different things. That's why you're tuned in, right? You can see all the different things. All right, so I'm just taking it off of my fingers here. It's nice and sticky, which is really nice. Okay, so I'm going to press this now. And we'll press to the dark. And then we'll press again and press to the dark. So how many of you press open your half square triangles? Does anyone? Do you think I'm crazy? Time to square up. Do any of you have a favorite squaring up tool that you use, or do you use just your strip ruler like I'm doing here? All right, so just a couple more square ups to do.
Deborah asked if you always press with that. I'm assuming she means with the mat.
So Deborah asked if I always press with the mat, and the mat being the June Taylor pressing mat that I have there. And if I'm at home, I would use an ironing board. However, I'm not at home, and so I have this portable piece, and we'll look at that in just a moment after we trim this, so that you can see if you've never seen this. And it's good for, I guess, a couple things. So number one, if your ironing board is not, I guess, that wide, this can be really nice, especially when working on wider blocks. All right, let's look at this here. So the square and blocker is a piece of fabric that has printed grid on it. I don't really use the grid. It has cushioning, some foam under there, and then a board. On the other side, it's just the board. There is no cushioning, so it's only one-sided. And this is really nice because it's wide, and it can just go right on top of your tabletop. You can even put it right on top of your mat, and you're not going to be harming your mat. The other thing you can do with this, which we haven't talked about, is that you can use it to what's called block your quilt squares. And that's a whole separate session, but the concept being that if you're working like with a panel square or something that needs to be squared up, you saturate it with water, you position it, and then you'd use the grid marks to stretch it out, and then you'd pin it into place and let it air dry. That is what's called blocking. Okay, So you would pin it like that after it's saturated, and then after it's dry, you would get it and it would be perfectly square. So, but I like to use it as a portable pressing surface, which works spectacularly well in the studio here, or if I am traveling on retreat or in a classroom, or if I simply do not have a, if my board is not big enough, and especially if we're just going to pull it back out, if you're working with a big block here, I mean, my ironing board isn't that big, so my big board that I sometimes use on top of the ironing board is, but the ironing board surface itself is normally pretty narrow. Okay, so that is what that is. Did that answer your question, Deborah? All right. Ah, okay. So Jerry uses a square ruler and straightens at two sides. One thing that I'm not going to actually do it here, but something that I always want to just say is that you want, so then you're probably going like this and like this, okay? So I always teach to go perpendicular from your body so that you don't hurt yourself. And something that would be great is that if you then rotated the mat or used a spinning mat. Oh yeah, I said I was going to get a spinning mat one of these times in the studio. I should do that, okay? So that I can sell you one and show you how great it is. I'm crazy that way, showing you all the tools. Okay, so just be careful when you come up here. So number one, you can sometimes not be perpendicular to the board. So you might be bigger this way. And then I just don't want you to cut off the tips of your fingers. All right, but that's the safety warden is done for her discussion today. And always good to hear all of the different ways. So we would be finishing this block by putting it together like this. And I just want to show you how versatile these half square triangles are. Okay, so we'd sew it together in 4-patch fashion where you just sew this to this to this, press it, and then this to that. Okay, I won't torture you with that tonight. But what's really cool with the half square triangles, what all you can do with it. Okay, that's different here. You could have it look like this, kind of looks like an envelope. You could have them going like this. Okay, just so many fun different things that you could do to create your own designs. You could also do it where you had them be pretend flying geese. All sorts of options. Okay, so the very versatile half square triangle. I was going to show you how to use the sewing tape on the bed of the machine, and what we're going to do, since time is sneaking up on us, is that I am just going to use these pairs so I can work on block 2 of this same, because we needed to make 3 blocks. So we'll just work on this one here, and then what we'll do is we'll use the tape on the bed of the machine and see how that works. Okay, so we'll just sew a couple of these together that way so that you can see the results. Because I want to make sure that we can look at some of the great things you've been doing, and of course have to sneak in some new fabric. Yeah. So we haven't asked a trivia question at all tonight, and I am going to ask, what is the name of this fabulous product that we have been talking about and using? The winner is going to be getting a really fun I've been digging deep into our prize bin, so I'll pull out and show you later what we will be looking at. All right, let's hop over to the machine, and we're going to put this on the machine bed. All right. Okay, so, we are just trying all of the things tonight. So, I don't know if you can see here. Probably not, because my hand is in the way. Okay, so what I did is that this tape is, let's see here. Yep, that's how, so Tammy was saying she can't zoom in anymore, and we're just going crazy. We're going crazy here. I'm just taking everything apart. I'm going rogue. All right, so what I did is I lined this up here. You can see that. Okay, I lined it up, and let me see where my camera is. Right there. Okay, so right there. All right. And what we need to do now, so I do have my feed dogs covered, so that's a problem, but I wanted to make sure I was in the right spot. So now that I'm in the right spot, I'm going to take my presser foot off for a second. I'm going to click it off so I can pull my tape up. Okay, do you see that? So that we'll actually be able to sew. All right, so I'm just going to switch cameras so I can take it back to there. Sound good? All right, perfect. All right. So, there we go. And then we'll put the machine back on, or the foot back on. And to put the foot back on, we just click it back in. I love this Eversewn machine. And I'm using my 1/4 inch foot right now. I don't need the 1/4 inch foot, but it's just really helpful for not having to worry about changing back and forth as needed. So, let's see here. If I am going to be using this, what I do is I make sure that I am lined up here on the 1/4. I would make sure that the top and the bottom here are lined up on that 1/4 inch line, and so I'd be stitching here. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to try to do it one-handed, so you'll just see it from the back of the machine. I've done different products like this before. Let's see if my technique has improved. So let's see here. So what we're basically then doing is, as we're stitching, we'd be making sure that this point stays there. Does that make sense? So for me, it takes a ton more concentration. It's a different process, since that's not typically the process I do. Doesn't mean that it's bad, it's just different. So let's see here. Just going to do one more side here, and if I'm doing the other side, I am doing the same thing, right? Yeah. And then we'll cut it apart and see how I did. Huh. See how I did. No matter what method that you're doing, you always want to make sure that you don't stitch over your pins. Stitching over your pins is bad. All right, and then we will hop back over here. Let's see if I can put it back in, because I'm just, tearing everything apart. Oh, that's pretty good. Ha! Look at us. All right. So, okay. Not perfectly straight, but we do square up. I can tell already that the way that I aligned it, I sewed much less than a 1/4 inch. Just the way that I did it. Isn't necessarily a bad thing because we're squaring these blocks up. I'm just analyzing it and giving you a full product review here. And then after we're done here, we'll see how it squares up. Does that sound good? So is everybody excited that the temperature is going to be coming back down to something more seasonable? I think that's the word, seasonable. All right, here's the truth. All right. Okay, plenty of room for squaring up. Looks like a 45-degree angle. Well, that's good. The best thing is that I did not have too large of a seam or too much of a gap for that center, because if I had too much of a gap, then I wouldn't have enough fabric to square this up to 5. All right, so if no discernible difference, if we're going to be super critical, you probably can't see it from this view here, but I come just a titch that I'm not a perfect straight line, but to the naked eye, not a difference. And this is the one that we did when we did the tape, where we stitched through it. This is the one where we put the tape on the machine bed. Clearly you can see it was much quicker to go from sewing to pressing to squaring up and not having to take that tape off. And your tape would last longer. However, it is a different way of sewing to make sure that everything lines up. So that is what I have for you for that. So the diagonal seam tape by Cluck Cluck Sew. For full instructions and uses, visit cluckclucksew.com. Diagonal seam tape. We carry it here in store at $7.50 for 10 yards of the diagonal seam tape. There you have it. I give it 2 thumbs up. So I think we should take a moment and take a look at some of the amazing show and tell that you have been putting together. If you are not a member of our Patchworks Party, I highly encourage you to join us on our Facebook group. So first up, we're going to take a peek. Julie, I don't think I was able to show you Julie's progress that she had shown us last month. And Julie's working with the color way called Pink Lemonade. And she has these blocks in 3 different scales. Great job. Betsy has been working very hard, and she shared her blocks here with all those half square triangles. And I love here how Betsy has interjected some print. So even though she is doing a lot of solid, she's interspersing some prints here. And what I really want to share with you is that whenever you're participating in a quilt along or block of the month or kit, feel free to make the quilt your own. It always is much more interesting. Sally's sharing that she's sewing by a lake. And Patty has been battling with power outage from the storm, but that's not going to stop her. She is going to be cutting while she can't be at her machine sewing. So great job taking advantage of that natural light and getting your fabric quilting time in, even if you can't go to the machine. So thank you so very much. Next, what I want to show you is we had a really special visitor earlier this week, and that is Stephanie from Fancy That Design House. I just got the order of that out of sync. She is a local designer and illustrator from New Berlin, and she has a ton of art out there on all sorts of different products. She gave us a super cool tea towel set from the fabric line, and that is going to be one of the giveaways in our Moda University, which is Must Sew TV next week. So that's what I'm holding. There's 3 different tea towels there, 4 different tea towels that I'll be splitting up for some of the things. So you are going to want to make sure that you are tuned in next week. And what I want to make sure that we do now is that I want to show you the fabric line so that you can just drool over this brand new fabric line that we have in store from Stephanie. So this fabric line, which is called Songbook, there is a beautiful panels, 2 beautiful panels that go along with it. But I just love these luscious florals and tonals. It's so very now, so beautiful. It really goes with just those great colors that you see in stores. So sometimes our quilt fabric that we love, love, love doesn't necessarily translate to trends, but this one does, and it also blends beautifully with other fabrics available from Moda Fabrics, even though Stephanie is a brand new designer. I probably have to push this up here so you can see everything. You have greens and steels. And I'm just going to move our iron so we don't start the store on fire. That would be a bad thing. Frank might be mad. I would be sad, so that wouldn't be good. So this right here, this is my favorite fabric piece. That's available in several different colors. Isn't that gorgeous? It is just so gorgeous, so luscious. Such a great scale for cutting up. And in the selvage here for Songbook from Stephanie of Fancy That Design House, she has written, "Putting a Song in Your Heart." So great, great, great to meet you. And I can't wait to see all sorts of different things that you have to offer. And I look forward to working with you in the future. We do have this fabric line available in store and online. It is going to be one of our fabric lines that we feature in our Moda University Must Sew TV next Thursday night. And as I said, we will have the super cool tea towels, dun, da, 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 da. Oh, that we will have as we'll split up 4 giveaways for next week. So that is super, super, super exciting. So, I have so much to share with you, but I know we have been together for an hour already, and I appreciate you hanging out with us. I am going to let you know that, see, we're just playing with all the angles today. It's just crazy. So thanks so much for bearing with us as we try to zoom in and share different things with you as we're going along today. All of you who have submitted for our show and tell that we shared today in our presentation, I have a little goodie from our gift box here, all presents from Moda Fabrics, and one additional one that I didn't share with you that I need to share with you, and that is Carol, who finished her Getting to Know You and entered it into the fair. She got a first place, and let me bring that up to share with you, because you need to see it if you haven't been able to get to the fair. Let me share that for you. You can see it, and Carol went ahead and she put the applique on, and she did all of her applique with hand turn. So it's super pretty, and she got first place in the mixed technique. So congratulations, Carol, on your Getting to Know You. I'm so happy that you got that done and that you entered it into the fair. Congratulations to you. So I will be doing a separate presentation with all of our new arrivals for you to be able to see, and then we will be coming at you as well, because in the next week we are going to be doing a shop tour video to be able to enter into a manufacturer competition. So I am so excited to be able to share that with you as well. I appreciate you tuning in on our Thursday evening program. We come at you every Thursday at 7 p.m., mostly live, and happy quilting, and we'll see you soon.